I wanted to talk today a little bit about the 1911 Colt auto pistol that was adopted by the U.S. government in 1911. I also wanted to talk about the 45 ACP and how the 45 ACP came about. Here you got your 45 ACP round. Now what happened is we had a war. The United States had a war. What was it? Insurrection in the Philippines from about 1899 to around 1904 or so. They called it the Philippine Insurrection, and we were up against a bunch of mostly Muslim fighters in the Philippines, and the pistol cartridge that the U.S. Army was using at the time was the 38 long Colt. We had already gone from the 45 long Colt, and we came out with a new pistol in 38 long Colt. We thought the lower caliber was fine. It turned out it wasn't working. The 38 long Colt wasn't stopping these crazy Muslim what they call rebels. So in 1904, two guys in the Army, a guy by the name of Thompson and a guy by the name of Lagarde, they called the Thompson-Lagarde tests. They decided to figure out what kind of cartridge we're going to need in the future for the American Army. What they did is they went to the Chicago stockyards. You know, back up until 1970, there was a bunch of stockyards outside of Chicago where they had horses and mostly cattle, sheep, and everything, and they butchered them, basically. And that was finally closed up in 1970 because it was too close to Chicago. So in 1904, this Thompson and Lagarde guy, they go to the Chicago stockyards, and they brought with them a bunch of pistols with different cartridges. And you had the 30 Luger cartridge, the 9mm Luger cartridge. They had the 45 long Colt, the 38 long Colt, and a bunch of others, 455 Webley included. And what they did is they shot cattle with them. They'd bring cows out, cows or bulls or whatever. They'd bring them out, and they'd shoot them in the lungs. They'd shoot them like 6 times in the lungs, and they would time how long it would take for this cow to keel over and die. If the cow didn't die fast enough, they would finish it off with a hammer to the head. This is what they did. And not only did they kill cows, but they actually did the same. They killed a couple of horses too this way. And they used and what they did is like I said, they'd shoot them in the lungs, and sometimes they'd shoot them in the intestines and the guts. And like I said, they would sit there and they would time how long it took them for keel over and die. And the other thing they did is they actually got human cadavers, and they hung these human cadavers, dead bodies, human dead bodies. I don't know where they got these from. Probably one of the Chicago hospitals. They probably had a lot of dead bodies from vagrants and stuff out there, homeless back then. They didn't call them homeless back then. They called them tramps or hobos, I guess. Anyway, they hung these cadavers up, and they shot them with each one of these pistol cartridges. And they measured how far their bodies swung when they got shot. I'm serious. I'm totally serious with a heart attack here. This is how they were testing these cartridges. And from shooting all these dead bodies and slaughtering all these cows, they ended up figuring out that 45 caliber they thought was the best caliber for as far as knockdown power for the Army to introduce, for the Army to adopt. Now, it's funny that even now, if you cruelty to animals in this day and time is, if you're a civilian and you're cruel to animals, you can end up in jail for a long time. Unless you're a government agent, then you can be as cruel as you want to animals. I mean, FBI and police have shot dogs all the time, and they get away with it all the time because they're cops, But that was the same thing back then. These army guys, they were being pretty cruel to these animals. Anyway. So that's how they decided they needed a 45 caliber cartridge, a bullet. And this is what they ended up in the end in 1911 they adopted the 1911 pistol designed by Colt, John Moses Browning. And here's mine. I picked this gun up in 1982, I think. This is a 1911 A1 pistol that was made by Ordnance in New York. New York! Yeah, it was made in New York around 1981, 82. This is the same people that made the Thompson submachine guns and Thompson carbines. If you look here on the front of this, you can see it's got the Thompson logo, which I thought was cool when I bought this gun. If you can see, it says Thompson and Auto Ordnance. Now, I did a lot of things to this gun. This was a basic 1911 when I bought it for about, I think it was $3.25 or something back then, $325, and I put adjustable sights on it. I put a target trigger on here. I put an extended magazine release on it. I put an extended safety on it. What else did I do to it? I relieved this a little bit on the side here. I replaced the original barrel with a national match barrel and bushing and things like that. I ended up throating the barrel and polishing the feed ramp. So this gun will feed empty cases right now. It'll feed just about any kind of 45 ACP bullets that you can get. And it's like over the years it's served me well. I've shot a lot of rounds through this gun, thousands actually. I just like this particular magazine. I like these stainless steel magazines, but I still use the your basic 1911 magazines. They still work with it. Now, the 45 ACP is a great round. I like it. The only problem with the 45 ACP round is penetration. It has problems going through car doors and stuff, and this is basically why the 45 ACP and the 38 Special were replaced in the 1930s when they came out with the 357 Magnum cartridge in 1934. Now Colt also came out with a cartridge they called the 38 Super, and they came out with that I think in the 20s for the 1911 pistol, and that is a good cartridge. I never bought. I really would like to get a 1911 and 38 Super because the 38 Super was designed to go through car doors and to shoot these what they call them back in the 30s. They are in the 20s and 30s. They call them gangsters. And like I said, that's what they did. Is they ended up the 38 Special pistols and even the 45 autos. Like I said at the time, they couldn't go through all the car doors and the steel and kill these damn gangsters. And these gangsters were shooting at the cops with Thompson machine guns and BARs. Browning automatic rifles. Anyway, I'm sorry. Back to this thing here. I really love this gun. It's a classic design by John Moses Browning. When this gun came out in 1911, every other semi-automatic gun at the time was obsolete. I mean, there was nothing out there that was anywhere near as good as the closest semi-auto pistol at the time in 1911 that was a competitor to this was probably the P8 Luger. Even that gun was not as good as this one. Now, if you look at this gun, you've got two safeties on this gun. You've got your manual safety here, and you've got a grip safety here. You notice if you don't have your hand on that grip, you can't fire this gun. Even with the safety off, you can't fire it. Safety is off when it's down. It's safe when it's up. When the safety's on, it locks the slide and the hammer and the trigger. When it's down, as long as you're gripping the gun properly, it will fire like that. You also have a slide stop here. You have a last round hold open. This is your magazine release, nice and easy. Drop free. Brilliant. These only carried, these only held 7 rounds at the time. You could buy aftermarket magazines that'll hold 8 rounds, but this is what they were back then. They've actually come out with double stack versions of the 1911 that'll hold like 13 rounds in the magazine, which is nice. But this is an original type gun. This is your slide release right here. You just push down. Now, if you wanted to learn how to disassemble this, just look up under 1911 field strip. because I don't have the tools right now to take this off, because this has a match barrel bushing, and you have to have a tool to actually get it off. It's tighter than the normal bushings. Anyway, now I think I think everyone should own one of these. Actually, they're just great guns. I've actually carried this gun on me as a carry pistol, but it is sort of big. You could get a smaller version they call the Commander that's got a smaller, a shorter barrel on it. But you can't, as long as you're not trying to shoot through car doors or something like that. The 45 ACP round has a lot of firepower. I mean, it's got a lot of knockdown power. A lot of people will complain, well, I get 9mm. 9mm is fine. I get a 9mm, and I get it with a hollow point, and the hollow point will expand. It'll give just as much knockdown power as the 45 ACP. And to those people, I tell them that your 9mm bullet that's a hollow point, it might expand, but this 45 caliber bullet here, it sure as hell ain't gonna shrink. That's the way I see it, you know. And you can buy hollow points with 45 as well. So the other thing I love about 45 ACP is it's naturally subsonic, so it suppresses really nice. It's great in my Mac 1045s with a suppressor on it. It's a great round. You can't beat the knockdown power. These pistols, these will last you forever. You'll be giving these to your sons and your daughters, and they'll be handing them down forever as long as our government doesn't get to be too crazy. You just can't beat a 1911 45 or 38 Super. They also make these in 9mm, and that's good too. If you guys like 9mm. So I talked enough. So I think I'm gonna sign off now. I wanted to thank my wife again for videoing this for me. Thank you very much.